topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. It is Tuesday morning, and I'm so thrilled to be here with y'all. And I have a story to share with you. So recently, I was at one of our local mechanic shops, or actually, at the auto mechanic, where we were getting, car service, just a 60,000 mile checkup, just a tire rotation, just the usual stuff. And then rather than sitting in the waiting room, there was coffee, some popcorn. So I was like, rather than scrolling down either my social media or my phone, I decided, I know that there is a nice park out here and some nice trails. Let me go check it out. And I just went down. It was going to be an hour and a half or so. They were quite busy. And you will not believe it. I was surprised. That exploration turned out to be a local adventure. So every turn I took, it was just fascinating, from swamp roses to wildlife, poinsettia, like flowers. And it was like I'd turn around, these colorful mushrooms, I would turn around, blue heron, and I'd turn around and there would be just these beautiful flowers. And I cannot tell you what I was dreading, that it would be like a boring and I'd be yawning my way while sitting over there. Turned out to be an adventure, as if I was in one of the best vacation spots on the earth. So what I'm inviting you over here is to take the time and explore your own backyard. So many times we are just waiting to recharge, to go someplace else. So discover something in your backyard and find that magic. And also the magic happens in books as well. So if you have not had a chance to get one of our books, do get one of your copies, because not only it's going to help you live a better life, a better business, also influence and impact other people. Not only that, partial profits from our books, go to kiva.org. And I appreciate y'all buying my books, because without you, we would not have been able to continue donating to global entrepreneurs. And we donate to entrepreneurs all across the world. Not only that, if you like our books, we'd love for you to leave us a review, because super, super important that you leave us a heartfelt review, and it helps other people see what you're thinking and helps us help others. Also, keep that cycle of kindness going. Really important. Take a moment and help out. It can be simple thing. So just to share, we were walking, and when I'm saying we were, there were several people walking around, and as I was taking pictures of these swamp roses, and if you're interested to see what do they look like, feel free to go on one of my social medias and you'll see I've created a whole movie out of it. And So there were these two ladies, and they were trying to get the pictures, and they were not as great. So they were like talking to each other. I wish I had grabbed that. And then I had taken several pictures, and I'm not a photographer, but somehow, that day I got some really good pictures. I said, would y'all like me to airdrop it? And they said, sure. And airdrop didn't work, but I was able to send them the pictures. And it was so beautiful to see that smile on their faces. Just a tiny little picture, 5 minutes of your time, and that kindness can go long ways. So take the time and be kind to others. Let's bring our guest in. Welcome, Nader.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, Nader, we usually begin at the childhood. So, can you share with us, do you recall any moments or any person that you remember even today, or who helped shape your life?
Well, I have a lot of areas. I think that the one thing that comes to mind, which sort of shaped my life as I was growing up, is I had a rather severe stuttering problem. When I was at school, I had a hard time to speak in front of people, especially reciting a book or something like that. And I would just get stuck. And that was bringing me a lot of agony and tension and frustration. And that was with me for all along. So that was one story. And then when after high school, I came to US to study. And then I started to work. And then in work, where we're sitting around a meeting, I realized, oh man, I need to learn to present in front of people. Because that stuttering problem didn't have any issues with getting really good grades, but it did cause a lot of issues when I was going to present in front of people. And so I decided to sign up for a UC Berkeley extension class, teaching a class, so that I can address that issue, that fear in me. And the very first day of that class, a young kid, I was about 23 years old. And as you may know, Berkeley extension classes, they're all industry experts, and there's like 50, 55 really grown-up people in front of me. And so the fear factor was pretty huge for me. And the stuttering problem was actually started out really bad, but then over time, day after day, got a little better. So toward the end of the quarter, it was pretty much gone. So I was able to address that just by sort of facing my fears, in a sense. So that's one of the stories. I would say another story that comes to mind relates to music. I'm a youngest of 5 kids, and all of my older brothers and sisters, they were encouraged to take lessons, music lessons, and none of them really took it seriously. So when it came to me, my parents basically decided, you know what, why bother? It's like, this is too much effort. So I was pretty much the only one that didn't get a formal music training. But having said that, there was a piano sitting in a corner of our living room, and every once in a while I used to sit down and just play with the keys. I just enjoyed creating melodies and just playing along. And that really created a lot of fascination and a love for music. So I carried that over. I just love to create tunes, to compose, to just bring things together and just use this tool as an expression of the soul. And so that stayed with me all along. And obviously I kept, whatever instrument I like, I just pick it up and play. I don't really know too much of the technicalities of music. But I have taken a couple of classes here and there just to know the basics. But what I really enjoy is the creativity and the expression aspect of music. And I also bring that into my work too, because it also is a great source of presence. When you listen to music, you can't live in the past, you can't live in the future. You have to stay with that note right there. You can't hang on to the note that you heard like 10 seconds ago, and you can't predict what's going to come. So it's really a meditative experience, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, no, fascinating. So let's talk about both the stories. So you talked about that when you were young, you faced stuttering. And I'm sure that children, being children, children can be fun. And at the same time, they can be very cruel and even mock people. So did you face any of that? If you're okay to share.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too much. I was a very, I would say, not a very social person. I
Mm-hmm.
really, I really didn't mingle too much. I was very much in my own world. In fact, my primary world was just tinkering. We had an underground kind of a basement, and that was my laboratory. I did all kinds of stuff, like making electrical stuff, painting, obviously music, building mechanical stuff. So that was my world. I didn't have a whole lot of social connections. I did have a couple of friends, but not a whole lot. So because of that, there wasn't too many opportunities for bullying, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because I was kind of isolated, and I kind of focused in my own little world. So I didn't have any drastic ones, but of course, during the class when I was stuttering, of course, people would laugh and make tease. Yeah, so yes, of course, there's some of that, but it wasn't a major trauma, I would say.
Well, that's good because as it is, people are self-conscious about public speaking. And then when you have stuttering, I'm sure the problem became compounded, as you mentioned about. So tell us about that quarter as to how did you overcome that fear of stuttering and how did it just get deleted from your life?
Yeah, yeah. It's. I think a lot of times these fears sort of paralyze us, just like the stuttering problem was paralyzing me in a sense, right? So it was really a conscious intent to be able to address it, because as I mentioned to you, when I started working, I sort of realized if I were going to reach any level of success, I just have to find a way to resolve this. And I thought the only way to resolve this is to face it head on. And sometimes I do that. I just put some goals that is way beyond myself, and then just see what happens. And just the act of doing that, setting an intention and putting a vision out there, sort of propels me toward finding ways to address it. And to be honest, in the meeting, I remember in that session, in the Berkeley Extension session, obviously they were feeling a bit sorry for me. But having
Mhm.
said that, I was very good at school, and I knew exactly what to teach them. From a technical perspective, I've got it all. It's just I wasn't able to communicate. So I did a lot of writing on the board. I did a lot of handouts, so I could sort of let them read through it. So I tried to compensate some of that in the early phases until I sort of start the practice of verbalization aspect of it. So they really appreciated it. In fact, they really appreciated the thought behind it, the organizations, the care I showed toward them. So they were very compassionate, very understanding. So that really helped me to get positive reinforcement and really find a way to connect with them more. And again, it was just a matter of practice, not giving up. And again, just a lot of these baby steps. And just like anything else, it's like building a muscle. So losing a fear is little like that as well. It's almost like a workout, at least for
Yeah,
me.
definitely. So I like how you put it together that you have that intention. So now you have the intention, have that vision of what that future will look like. And once you know what that future will look like, it's also important to take that action. And keeping that vision and intention in front of you, take tiny action, take small actions, and there's no perfect action. And you found different ways. And one of the other thing that stands out is you were in the company of people who are compassionate. So it brings home another point that it is really critical. Who do you surround yourself with? If you surround yourself with people who uplift you, encourage you, it's amazing how much of a potential, the human potential can unfold. And then you continuously kept on taking action and facing fear because as you continue to do it, you kept on building that confidence and building that mental muscle because 90% of the times we desire to do things and we get in our own way. And when you use that mental muscle and keep on using it, you keep on building it. So that's fantastic. So tell us about your journey when you came to the United States. Did you find it any different, or did you just kind of flew into it where you transition into new life? How did that
Yeah.
pan
Yeah, obviously it was a major culture shock, I would say.
out?
I'm originally from Iran, and I never left my family until I came to the US. So it was a major shift. At the time, there's no internet and all of that. So the communication wasn't as easy as it might be right now. So that separation was a major shift for me, and also going into a culture totally unknown to me, very different system, value systems, and all of that. So yeah, it was a major shift. So I mean, even being in, I went to UC Santa Barbara, which was a beautiful campus. So I connected with the ocean, with the nature. The whole dormitory and having roommates was very difficult. Again, just getting used to that. But really, the two things that I put my focus on was nature and studies. I was studying for the most part, because even the language barrier was there too. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
very fluent in English. So I remember when I was taking my first chemistry class, every page I had a big dictionary. Again, no internet at the time, to look up for words. So every page, it would probably take me about an hour to finish reading. So it was not easy. But as you pointed out, I think these little experiences of overcoming fear and obstacles, like the stuttering example that I mentioned, it builds confidence. So it just gives me the I would say the strength that I can overcome this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Every little experience builds that confidence and creates that possibility, sort of, rather than being a victim of that. But it wasn't easy.
So what was the focus of your studies?
Computer science and electrical engineering.
Okay. So as you finished computer science and electrical engineering, which turn did your life take?
Yeah, so then I came to Silicon Valley, the land of for this type of technology, and I started working. It was actually pretty exciting, because I really enjoyed working and doing things, creating things. So in the very first several years of my career, I was very much in technical aspect, as a designer, designing high speed circuitry and chip design and all of that. So it was something that I really enjoyed. So for the first, I would say, 8 years of my career, I was very much into the technology and doing patents and new designs and all of that. And then slowly and gradually, I started to get into management and leadership.
Mm-hmm. And as you transitioned into the leadership, what would you say are your key lessons that you learned from there? Because even today, so many of my clients will come and tell me about the toxic culture, about toxic bosses, where they are in a situation that there's not much that can be done. And yet, as we continue to evolve into leadership, it just saddens my heart that, even to this day, to hear things like this. So tell us about your key lessons.
Yeah. A lot of my work today is just that, is to work with people to create healthy and effective cultures and conscious cultures. But going back again, the whole intention of me going into leadership and management was also a personal experience. So I remember we had a design, a new design that just came out, and I was in the process of testing it in the lab, right, to see if it works. And as you can imagine, it takes a while to really understand whether everything is working as expected, right? And every like 5 minutes, my boss used to come and say, so what's happening? Is it working? Is it? So it was really causing a lot of frustration. Of course, I didn't speak up. And I deep down, I sort of thought about it. I said, he's not adding any value. In fact, he's taking away value. It's like, what kind of a management is this? So at that time, I decided that if I become a manager, I'm going to be a really effective manager. I'm going to add value. I'm going to make a difference. So that was actually the shift around my thinking toward, rather than sort of complaining, I decided that I go into management and I'm going to be a good one. So that was always in the back of my mind to at every step of management, the minute you have people reporting to you, my goal was to bring value to them and be of service in a sense. So at that time, now of course it's pretty obvious, service leadership, conscious leadership is now a trend. But at that time, it was really based on a little personal experience.
And this again, that's fantastic that situation had you turn around your direction rather than sitting in that place of being victimized. So going back to that story, as you're talking about the shift, one of my clients came to me about the toxic culture, and she had tried everything under the sun. I mean, very, very effective leader. And then once we were talking during one of our sessions, and as we explored the different situation, was that how about if she aligned her boss, because her boss, like as you were talking about, like the questioning, as having that clear expectations, like, okay, so within a day, this will be my deliverable, so like mapping out the timeline. And it was so interesting to see that when she did that, she found that her boss was more fearful about the whole project because her job was on the line and her boss was putting her through. I mean, of course, that doesn't excuse any of the things that are handed down. And what she found was that slowly, as she was working with her boss, like helping her manage her insecurities and fears, I said, you are a leader yourself. Why don't you step into that leadership and manage up? And as she started doing that, she found that her boss left her alone, but yet the toxic culture had got to her. And then she decided to leave the company. So going back to what you're sharing is that servant leadership, that you can do something about it. So as you moved into leadership, what would you say held your team, or what were a couple of things or principles that helped your team achieve cohesiveness as well as peak performance?
Yeah. So I think this, by the way, thank you for sharing that example there about the culture. That's true. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, if the leadership is not conscious and willing, it's very difficult to shift it, and maybe it's time to leave. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. But going back to the culture, I think going back to sort of my journey of leadership, I think that mindset is really important. The mindset that there's maybe a few aspects. One is I need to bring value as a leader and as a manager. I need to bring value to my followers. So that by itself gives a lot of healthy connection, because I would say the team members really feel a sense of connection. It's not just a hierarchy of, okay, he's my manager and I'm the employee. No, there is more to it. There is a kind of a heart connection almost, because I'm here to bring value. I care. That showing care is really important, which I think it's absent in a lot of managers, because they're very numbers driven, and it's just results, and they sometimes look at employees as just placeholders. So so just that care slash service oriented mindset will enable the manager to be a lot more understanding and a lot more geared toward the development of employees and finding their gifts, finding their genius zones, rather than looking at them as just placeholders. Because as you know, people don't do things a lot of times intentionally. If something is going wrong or wrong decision is made, it's not, a lot of it is not intentional. It's just they don't know any better. So the role of the leader is to help with that, is to sort of raise the level of consciousness and awareness, and then really put some spotlight on bright spots. Bring the bright spots to light, which means, what are the strengths, what are the gifts, what are the genius zones, working with that rather than sort of the opposite side and bringing the darkness into the foreplay.
No, definitely that makes sense, because when you're caring, human beings are designed to reciprocate. Because at least 90 to 95 times what I've found is that even if you're walking down a street and if you smile at someone, even if they don't smile a full smile back, they'll at least give a semblance of a smile. And especially as a leader, if you're vested in them, if you're looking for their gifts and zone of genius, as you mentioned, then of course employees are going to give back. They feel, as you mentioned, about having that heart connection and finding meaning in the work and excelling. And when they excel, automatically the whole team excels, and you excel because you're looking good, because they're performing. And it is such a simple thing, Nader, to understand that when you're supporting others, they will support you. And yet, as you mentioned, your personal experience of micromanagement, I've had personally some of those bosses where there is micromanagement. And then, of course, so many of my clients have also shared that. You mentioned about that they don't know better. So similarly, let's explore that about the leaders. I'm assuming that they are also in a place, because if you're aware and if you have that consciousness, it's very hard not to act on it. So how can leaders, let's say, as our audience is listening, regardless whether an entrepreneur, leader, wherever you are at, let's say you're in that place of unconsciousness, how can you bring yourself to that consciousness and bring that joy back into your life?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question. I think there's really two aspects. It's almost like two wings that you need to fly and go wherever you want to go. One is mindset, the other one is skill set, and they're both really important. The mindset, really, a lot of it has to do with some of the things we talked about. What are the stories in your mind? Because as you know, everyone lives in their own stories, right? They perceive reality as a story, and that story may not be quite matched with the actual reality, but it is what it is. For them, is the reality, right? So one is just being aware of that everyone lives in their own stories, and stories are sometimes very different, even though the external reality is the same. So just having that possibility, that let me evaluate my story and let me understand the other person's story, that brings a level of awareness and consciousness into the picture. So things like, again, there are a lot of mindset oriented stuff, like taking an owner versus victim. I mean, it is really a mindset. of looking at the world and responding to the world as a victim or as an owner. It's a choice. Again, it's a conscious choice. And that has its own sort of formulations of thoughts. Things like, do you go about your life expecting, or do you go about life creating agreements, mutual, collaborative, clear agreements with other people? So again, these are all the mindset pieces. And of course, the skill set, a lot of it has to do with just the technicality, the operations aspect of it. The management and how to do X, Y, Z. So they're both really important. One is inner and the other one is going out and connecting and doing things, making things happen. So I think really both pieces are really important, and that's what I always encourage. Now, having said that, the mindset I think is primary, because without the mindset, if you know a lot of skill set but don't have the right mindset, it's still not going to be very effective. And obviously, if you have the right mindset but don't have the skills, that also will not be effective. But I think the mindset is more primary. I think it's really important to put a lot of emphasis around what happens inside the head, all these stories that we just talked about, because it really comes out. A lot of times the ego gets in the way. How do you get that away? How do you really bring yourself to that state of presence, and move away from egoic drivers? I think I was one of those too. As a CEO, I was a very egoic driver at the time, and that's why I can see how ineffective it can be. Again, at the time, the story in my mind was I have to push harder, I have to make things happen. It's like, brute force. But now when I look back and say, oh my God, that was far from being effective leader.
Mm-hmm. So what really touched me was when you shared that become aware of your stories and also understand that other people have stories. Because when you go about that way, then what's happening is that not only you're understanding yourself, but you're understanding others. That yes, the external reality is the same, and yet the perception is going to be different because everybody's experience is different. And
Exactly.
definitely having that mindset really helps.
Exactly. That's not easy, because we're so ingrained in our stories that is our reality. We have facts and figures. There's a lot of people that defend their stories so passionately, and they have all the facts and figures too, because that makes sense for them. So going outside of that zone and being in the state of maybe ambiguity or confusion is not comfortable. So it's not easy, but it's absolutely necessary to be able to go beyond and sort of expand our layers of consciousness and see the possibilities in other people's stories as well.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about your journey of becoming a CEO, and what learnings did you pack into your life from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's it was just a bit of unfolding. So I went into management for many years and basically moved up the ranks, and then there was an opportunity that came up to start a company, and that was a very intense but very exciting and creative experience. And I built a team, and by the way, the team was, because of this whole experience of leadership and management and creating the culture, I put a lot of emphasis there. So from day one, when I started the company, the very first thing I did was put a one sheet on, these are the core values. And anybody and everybody that I hired, I put that right in front of their face and said, this is who we are. Are you in or not? I mean, and so, I think that really made a lot of difference, because every person that I brought into the company was, in a sense, an underlying alignment and synergy because of that core principles. and we really treated each other as team members, very strong, very accountable, and very result oriented. So that actually made a lot of difference. I think if you ask me what's the number one reason for the success of that startup, I would say is the people.
Yeah.
Really, really great people, and the rest just followed. If you have the right people, if you have great people, any obstacle, there are ways to go at it and actually unfold. So I did that, and it was a great experience for all of us. And we sold the company to Cisco, and through the acquisition, me and my team joined Cisco, and we started a business unit and ran that for about 7 years before I left and started another company. But the whole concept of starting from scratch, putting a lot of emphasis on culture, on the kind of people that you bring to the table, on clarifying the vision, was really, really important lessons for me.
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to, again, what we started out in the beginning when you said that, like, intentionality, vision, everything it pulls together is that not only you had that intention first, that I want to have a team, I want to have company which is based on core values and respect and nurturing them. So you hired the right people, and then together you all created a culture where people thrived, even though the focus was on result driven, yet you had that respect amongst each other while holding each other accountable. And that speaks to the success of the team. So going back to the story of music, you have mentioned about music, and music is something which is so universal. We don't even have to know the words that are being spoken or anything. Just like sports brings people together, same as the music brings people from any walk of life together. So tell us, how did the music continue? And if you want to share with us, want to play something for us, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. Music is, I think we mentioned earlier that I think music is a language of the soul. And, as you mentioned, soul doesn't know any colors, any races, any religions. I mean, it's like we're all together, right? So it is the thread that connects us all. So that's another beauty of music. And again, the other part of music to me is a tool that can be used for expression of beauty, actually, and sort of beauty points us to our source in a sense. So it's a kind of an inner outer experience. It's it's a very wonderful gift that I think we have on this earth. So yeah, I play music. I use that as part of my work as well, because I think music and vibration has healing properties. It's meditative properties. As I mentioned, it invites you to be present, and it also invites you to be open to your own stories, because music actually sometimes unlocks some of these emotional imprints that are in our body and mind. So it actually invites us to unfold and explore. It's a wonderful experience. And as I mentioned to you, what I do is I pick up an instrument and start playing. A few years ago, I picked up, I was listening to a YouTube video from Sam Maher. I don't know if you know him, but he plays handpans. And so I was listening to that. It's called In New York. It's a beautiful piece. I was really inspired. I said, oh, this is a beautiful instrument. So the next thing is I ordered it online, and I got this instrument, start playing, and really got hooked to it. So that's one of the instruments that I play. Again, I started out with piano, as I mentioned to you, in my childhood, just playing with piano. Then I started experimenting with some string instruments, then some wind instruments, percussions, lots of percussions, and obviously hand pan. And another story, again, going back to setting these big goals for myself. Again, all these time I've been tinkering and playing and creating some songs for my own enjoyment. And then a few years ago, I decided, hey, why not do a recording? Why not create an album? So I actually put an intention for myself that I want to give myself a birthday gift and use this possibility to put all these songs together in an album.
Why not?
Yeah, so I did, and that was, to be honest, that was probably the most creative and intense experience of my life so far.
Wow.
It was a beautiful experience. I actually managed to hire someone to help me with the recordings, with the mixing, with the mastering. I mean, just learn the whole process of, what it takes to bring an album to life. And then so now that's what it is. If you look me up on Spotify or Amazon or iTunes, it's there. And one of the instruments that I mentioned to you is, I can show you. It's called okay. So this is the handpan that I was talking about. This is a kind of a mix of I would say percussion and melodic instrument. It has both. Let me actually put this down so you can see a little bit better. Yeah. So this one has both those capabilities. You can actually create tunes, and at the same time, there is a percussion sort of underlying character to it as well. So I just play a little bit so that you can get a feel for it. This was the one that I got inspired by watching that YouTube video. There we go. Can you hear it actually?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow.
Something along these lines.
That's amazing. Like every day, I find that you get to learn something new. Not only today, I learned about a new instrument, and that's something I have tried. I don't have the musical aptitude or gift. I keep on trying. I
have heard that before. One of the things I do with almost all my clients, I encourage them. It doesn't have to be music, but an instrument to expression. It could be music, it could be painting, it could be dance, it could be writing. I think it's so important. And every one of my clients say, well, I don't have talent. No, you do. I actually help them to, again, do a little bit of these muscles, build up these muscles. And then over time, I kid you not, some of my clients, they have never touched a musical instrument. And in a year, they can play along with me, actually. So it's just a matter of practice.
Well, thank you for the encouragement, and I'll definitely give another try. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and playing for us. Really appreciate that. So can you share with us what is it that you do, and how can people reach you? Anything else you would like to share with our audiences?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I for the most part, after I went through the building up companies and sort of going through the whole operational aspect, I decided to devote my life to executive coaching and to help other leaders, other CEOs, other entrepreneurs. And one of the reasons is because I have been there. I have been going through a lot of difficult ups and downs. And, it's always lonely at the top as a CEO or a business owner or entrepreneur. It's difficult. And I didn't have a person like a coach. So that's why I want to be there for them. And I think it makes such a big difference. So that's what I do. I devote myself for kind of helping bring more conscious leaders to the world. And my focus is on conscious leadership. I wrote my first book a few years ago on Path to Freedom, which sort of shares my insights and sort of experiences. And now I'm currently working on my second book, which is on conscious leadership. Obviously, I have my music album as well. But to reach me, I have a website, Synergist.com. That's CNERGIST. And over there, I sort of explain the kind of services. I do one-on-one executive coaching. I do intensive retreats. I do a lot of workshops. There's a lot of, kind of the whole concept is around conscious leadership. So that's really what I do for this phase of my life. There's a lot of there's a lot of I would say reward and passion for me to really help other entrepreneurs and CEOs to help them build conscious leaders and conscious businesses.
Well, that's you're on a great path. And that's what we talked about, being present and bringing that consciousness and bringing awareness. And you can be a leader wherever you are at. So thank you, Nader, for joining us and sharing your nuggets with us. I'm sure our listeners will get a lot of value. And folks, you can check out Nader at his website and his book. So thank you for joining us.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you, listeners, for joining us and sending us your stories and sharing with us. How can we help you and how can we support you? So thank you for being part of our family. We love you. And also, just let us know how can we serve you and support you so that you can live the life that you deserve. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. We'll see you next time. Be well and take care.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.